a smile as she stuffs a couple ones by your dong and slaps your ass as if to say, okay, now move along.
What's up, everyone? Jack here, back with another episode of Survivorflux. I try to give an objective opinion of what I think was right and wrong, but I'll definitely tell you guys who I like, who I don't like. But even when a player I don't like makes a good move, I'm definitely going to give them credit. So this is an alternate opinion. Let's jump right in. First of all, I want to say, obviously, no Extinction Island whatsoever. Later on, I'll pop on the screen our token count. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but there was no extinction after the longest Edge of Extinction segment ever. And for the first time ever since the introduction of Extinction, I saw people online being bummed out that they didn't get to see it, partially especially because we wanted Tyson confessionals. But even at the end, we didn't even see Rob go to extinction. I guess they're kind of saving the Amber-Rob reunion possibly for the beginning of the next episode. But I think this is the first time in the history of all two Edge of Extinction seasons that we didn't see it one bit, which is weird because the thumbnail on CBS.com for this episode is a picture of Natalie and Amber hugging, but we didn't see that in this episode. Maybe they showed it on the previously. But we open up to Nick unwrapping a token from Tyson. This might have just been kind of like Tyson was like, I don't know what to do with this. But it's interesting because this is the first time, other than maybe Danny, giving her token to Denise, that we've seen someone give a token to another person that they're not really that connected to. Possibly if Tyson's an awesome player, then he might be thinking, extend an olive branch to Nick, try to possibly work with him if he does get back in the game. But he might have just been throwing it away and kind of making a joke, who knows. But then we get the segment with Penner, about Penner's wife. If you guys haven't seen his previous seasons, he played on season 13. He got medically evac in season 16, the first Fans vs. Favorites, Micronesia. And then he played on season 25 with two other returning players who had been medevac. And I've always loved Jonathan Penner. I'm not going to go on and on about it, but definitely an emotional segment. You'll said online, but not in the episode, that he would give all $2 million away if he wound up winning. It's interesting they didn't show it in the episode. He might not have wanted to say that because people might pick him off earlier thinking he'll be a threat at the end. Who wants to give it to one person who's going to keep the money over someone who's willing to donate it to such a good cause? So I did find that part of it interesting. The segment was good, but not really related to gameplay. Good to see Yule open up though. And there's a GoFundMe online that's up to over 52,000 now that was started after this episode. So that's great as well. And now let's get to the main bulk of this episode, the swap. There's so much debate online over whether the swap was fixed or not, meaning whether production told people or knew exactly which buffs were going to which people. For me, I don't care. You know, that everyone had, at the beginning of the season, they definitely did this. Everyone's buff had a name tag on it. And of course they wanted to split up like Rob and Amber. They should have split up Natalie and Jeremy, that sort of thing. So like, I don't know, maybe it's because it's a swap, it's not the beginning of the season, they think it should be more random. A lot of people feel like I do though, like it doesn't matter. If production tries to kind of cover something up, that's one thing, and this did look random when we saw Jeff handing it out. But if it's not random and they're going in a certain order, I don't really care. As long as they're not trying to hide anything. And I love the results of these swap tribes, which we'll get into. So the three tribes we have: the Blue Tribe, originally like Adam, Rob, that tribe, Sele, is now comprised of Yule, Wendell, Parvati, Michelle, and Nick. And a lot of, I love the segments. We'll get into them a little bit. But when I first saw the switch, I immediately thought the girls were in trouble because those three guys are part of a 4-person alliance with Sophie that's been dictating the votes on the Red Tribe. But this is our new Blue Tribe. Next, our Red Tribe, DeCall, previously Tony's tribe, Sandra's tribe. Still have Tony and Sandra, still have Kim, and then Denise and Jeremy. As soon as I saw this, I felt bad for Jeremy and Denise, but immediately thought of what we would eventually see happen here in a few minutes, that Kim could be a swing vote and be looking to change things up. But I was glad to see Kim swap into a good position. And then the new tribe, the Green Tribe, Yara, we have Rob, Ben, Adam, Sophie, and Sarah. And same with the Red Tribe. My immediate thoughts were pretty much exactly what we saw play out. You know, old Sele has the 3-2 advantage here, with Rob, Ben, and Adam, but those guys have not been working together whatsoever. But as far as the episode goes, first we jump over to Red with Tony, Sandra, Jeremy, Kim, and Denise, and get to see a little bit of that dynamic. Looking at this tribe immediately, we find out that Denise was given her half back by Adam, so she has an idol. Kim, we find out in this episode, was given back her half from Sophie, so she has an idol. Sandra has an idol that's good for one more tribal council that she's been hanging on to since the first episode. And Jeremy has the safety without power, which means that he could leave a tribal council at any point, not be in danger of getting voted for, but not get to vote himself and just go back to the camp early. So what does this mean? We could see, not in this episode, but we could see Tony getting idled out of the game, much like Suri was in Game Changers. If people start playing their idols, get nervous, see that it's only a 5-person tribe, Jeremy leaves tribal council, Sandra can only play her idol for one more, so why not play it this episode? And then Kim, Denise, and Tony realize that they're the only 3 eligible for votes. Kim and Denise might just spring their idols out as well, and Tony would go home by default, which would be so disappointing. As you guys know, Tony's my absolute favorite this season, top 3 with Yul and Ethan. But as far as the tribe dynamics, Tony realizes that him and Sandra are on one side, Jeremy and Denise on the other, and that they need to make sure to solidify their trust with Kim because they don't really have that tight of a relationship with Kim. They voted out Amber, they voted out Tyson. Kim went along with those votes kind of because she had to, but she's been in no power and doesn't seem to be a part of a lot of the strategic discussion on that previous tribe. We see a scene where Jeremy asks Kim, do you not trust these two? And Kim is afraid to say anything, but she just says, gotta be careful, you know? And then we do get to see Kim and Denise. Kim is much more open, it seems, with Denise than Jeremy, and she seems open to the idea of them working together. But then she also has a discussion with Tony where they talk about sticking strong. So she really is the swing vote on this camp, and other than the immunity challenge, we didn't really get to see a lot else from this tribe. Sorry, my buddy just texted me about what VPN to use to watch Survivor on, so kind of relevant, but sorry for the interruption. So now we jump over to the new Sele tribe, which is predominantly now made up of former Red Tribe Dakal members. We have Yul, Nick, and Wendell on one side, and then we have Michelle and Parvati on the other. Few takeaways from this. It's great to see Parvati and Michelle work together. It kind of reminds me of Danielle and Michelle. We haven't really seen them interact, and Parvati was down 2 weeks ago to vote Parvati out and decided against it to get back at Adam. But it's nice to see that these two aren't just turning on each other. In a 5-person tribe, I always feel like that's the least interesting thing that could happen, where there's a 3-2 and both those two aren't close, so they're both like one or the other, and they're kind of pushing for the other one. And we see that Yul and Parvati are talking. Parvati didn't even seem to know Yul's wife's name. So for those of you that don't know, they both started on Cook Islands, was both of their first season. Yul wound up winning, and he actually got Parvati out. He's the reason Parvati was eliminated and that her alliance was eventually the minority. And then, of course, Parvati went on to win in her next season, season 16, Micronesia. But it doesn't seem like Yul and Parvati have kept up that much, and it would be crazy if this tribe goes and the 3 guys stick together and Yul winds up once again being the reason that Parvati is voted out in 2 of her 4 seasons. But the thing most people are interested in, of course, is the Michelle and Wendell dynamic. They dated in the past. It sounds like it was a couple months. It sounds like it was a much bigger deal to Michelle than it was to Wendell. And it's interesting because even the first time I watched it, my takeaway from the edit was that Wendell was kind of the bad guy in the situation. He was so nonchalant, and Michelle seemed to be truly hurt by him. And I watched a podcast that Matt Hoffman from Big Brother 12 was on, and his take was completely different. He hadn't seemed to talk to anyone about his take, and he just thought Michelle was crazy. He just thought, like, that's the worst thing for Wendell. Wendell's just trying to be chill and cool, and Michelle's just acting absolutely crazy. Look at her sharpening that axe, blah, blah, blah. And once I heard that, I was like, that's kind of a good point. Like, I still feel like the edit makes her look like the girl that he hurt, and he's like a playboy almost, but like you can see it from the other side where he's just trying to like be cool, not really talk about it. He even says that they kicked it. He stutters through it, but he said we kicked it. So he's trying to downplay it and just not make this episode or this content or anything about it. And she just keeps going on and on about it. And even in a secret scene, we see that she really wants to get him out. That's what she says in this secret scene is her number 2 priority in this game. Number 1, win. Number 2, be the reason Wendell gets eliminated. So I just thought it was interesting to hear someone else's perspective on that, because it's kind of a good point. And then we do see Parvati and Nick talk a little bit. He reveals, because other people are going to say it. Maybe they would, but it's like everyone's not talking about it. Nick just wanted an excuse to tell Parvati that she was his high school crush. They mentioned that Parvati's married. When he actually admits to this, he says that I know she's married now. But also, one thing to note is Nick is also married. Not that this is a big deal or anything, the two of them talking, but they're both married, just to clear it up. And then I think that the episode title for this episode should have been a quote from Michelle. You guys probably know which one this is. She says, "New season, who dis?" Just perfect. I just had to throw that out there. That should have been the title of the show. Even though, as we jump over to the new Green Tribe, brand new tribe, the quote, the episode is called "The Buddy System on Steroids," and I also think that that's pretty appropriate, because it's a big deal that someone's trying to bring the buddy system back. But let's look at the tribe breakdown. So this is the only tribe where we have 3 former Sele and only 2 former Dakal. The other 2 are Dakal dominant that we've talked about so far. So we have 3 guys who are all former Sele: Ben, Adam, and Rob. And then we have 2 girls in Sarah and Sophie. So essentially, if you don't remember, in the Ethan vote, Adam thought he was tight with Ben. Adam told Rob the plan. Rob told Ben and the rest of them that Adam was telling him the plan. Then they all decided to vote against Adam. Not for Adam, but they voted for Ethan. So Adam felt betrayed. Adam voted for Parvati, and then Rob voted for Adam. So there's a lot of mistrust going on with these 3 guys. Seems like the best case scenario for Sarah and Sophie. It's interesting, Sarah makes sure to blame Tyson for Amber going to Edge of Extinction. I just felt like, I don't know, we didn't know at this point that Rob was going to Edge of Extinction, but I feel like he's easily, once he gets there, gonna find out exactly what went down. If Tyson doesn't tell him, Amber will tell him, so he's gonna know that that was a lie. Maybe not a big one, maybe it won't come back to haunt Sarah. So essentially we see these 3 guys immediately divulging all of the former Sele tribe's drama, all this Ethan, Parvati, Adam betrayed by everyone, but he also is playing too hard. Ben, Rob, all of their dynamics. And I think Rob said everything outright because he knew the other guys would be talking about it. So he wanted to be the one to reveal it all out in the open. And to me, that's not a bad strategy. A bunch of people are saying, why did they tell the girls everything? But they were so disjointed that I think that was going to happen naturally. And then Rob said it in front of everyone, so it can't look like anyone's lying about these various things. They'd actually have to tell some other story other than this crazy truth in order for it to look like Rob was lying about the entire situation. And once he brought it up, all 3 guys were chiming in. So we also see before the immunity challenge that Sophie finds an idol. She shares half with Sarah. Again, Sophie doesn't have the half of the idol that Kim gave her. She gave it back. So now Sophie found an idol, gave half to Sarah because she had to by sundown. And we have another pretty standard 3 legs in a race immunity challenge. Rob was not put on puzzle, but Rob's tribe, once again, seems like something that keeps happening this season. Rob's tribe loses due to the puzzle because they weren't behind to start with. And then we jump back to Rob's tribe, who has lost immunity, and that's where we get the buddy system on steroids. The buddy system, for those of you that don't know, is what Rob called a system he used in Redemption Island. He had 5 people in an alliance, and they all looked up to him. He had played 3 times before that, and he was able to kind of use them as pawns. But what he did was implement what he called the buddy system, so that no one person in that alliance was off with anyone else without someone else there as a witness, which just sounds crazy. But if you've been watching Rob this season, it's that kind of stuff that makes him such a mafioso, good or bad. So he was able to use this buddy system, so if anyone in the tribe said something to someone else, then it would get back to him. And they were so afraid of him that they would wind up ratting each other out pretty often. If anyone, it was almost cult-like. And so with Ben and Adam, Rob tries to employ the buddy system, which Sarah calls the buddy system on steroids, where after this talk, no one leaves camp for the rest of the night. And so we see a great scene where they're trying to do this. The 5 of them are sitting around talking about food. It's really, really awkward, and it sounds like they were like that for several hours. Now, people have wondered, as far as the vote, which we'll get a little more to in a second, how exactly Sarah and Sophie were so sure that the guys were going to go against Rob. Well, basically, we can see that in a few previous conversations before they lost the immunity challenge. But more than that, one thing you gotta think about is production. So Rob has to go off and do a confessional where he's talking to the camera by himself. And those take 30 minutes, an hour. They take a while. They don't just get a 30-second sound clip. And so in that time, the 4 of them just so easily could have talked. Based on the edit, it does look like they're all sitting there. It sounds like he pretty much tried to sit there with them all night, but he had to go do his little interview about everything that was happening. And so at that time, they easily could have all gotten together, the other 4, to vote him out. And we do see Ben mouthing Rob to one of the girls prior to Tribal. And before Tribal, Sarah gives Sophie back the half that Sophie had given her. Sophie asks for it back and Sarah gives it back. But more than Sophie's idol, an advantage that's actually more powerful in a 3-2 split 5-person tribe is the vote steal. Essentially, Sarah can steal any person's vote before they even make the vote. And so, idols aside, Sarah, Sophie, before the vote, they just say, Rob, we want your vote. And then they could have voted out Adam, could have voted out Ben. Sophie said she did not want to work with Rob in this game and used some unkind words towards him in confessionals. And so it just sounds like neither of those girls wanted to work with Rob. So if they could get those 2 guys on their side, solidify it, then they can definitely get Rob out without having to play the steal a vote. And since Sophie gets her idol back, I actually thought that they were going to play the idol wrong because Sophie asked that she get it back. But Adam also did, at least to Rob in that awkward fake conversation, say they should keep Sophie because she's better at challenges. So I was surprised they didn't play either advantage. Rob was pretty quiet until the end of Tribal Council, and Rob gets voted out 4-1. And people are calling it a blindside, but I think his reaction, he was just more like taken aback that he had worked so hard and actually come back after almost 10 years and got voted out. I think deep down he had to know that there was a chance that Ben and Adam were not going to stay loyal to him in this vote. But like I said, I really thought that we were going to see one of the girls go home and regret not using an advantage. But Rob does wind up going home, and Rob gives both of his tokens to Parvati as he exits to Edge of Extinction. We don't see him actually get there, but this means that now Parvati has the most tokens still in the game at 4, and then Natalie also has 4 on Edge of Extinction. So looking at next episode, the preview said that both the losing tribes will vote someone out, which I find very interesting. So it sounds in a way that it's going to be a double vote out, but the way it's worded, both the losing tribes will vote someone out. That actually could mean it'd be like a Malcolm situation where 2 little tribes go to tribal council together, but there's only one person that all 9 of those people would be voting for. I don't know which I prefer. I mean, I like a lot of action, but since DeCall and Sele, Blue and Red still kind of exist because it's only been an episode since the swap, a tribal of 9 where they have to vote one person out could be really interesting. Like I said, if it is just tribes of 4 or 5 going, just their individual tribes going as far as voting one of their own out, Tony, like I said, is at risk of getting idled or advantaged out of the game because Kim, Denise, and Sandra all have idols. Sandra has to use hers by her next tribal council. It's only good for 3 tribal councils that she attends. And then Jeremy has the safety without power that he got from Natalie, where he can just leave tribal council, not be voted for, but he gets no vote. So that would be horrible to see Tony get idled out of the game. I think in that way, I'm actually going to be, I don't usually root for certain tribes at immunity challenges. Usually I just want the numbers to be even so we get to see the dynamics between every tribe there. But this time is actually an exception because I think I'm completely rooting for Tony's tribe just so that he's safe through this next episode. And then Sele, the tribe that now has Wendell and Michelle, the X's on it. I think it's really likely Parvati goes in that case. Or Wendell pushes for Michelle. I think that that's going to be more of the narrative than them flipping someone, or at least more of a believable narrative, because those three guys really are solid. They voted together the whole time. They have an alliance with Sophie. And then we have to talk about the new Green Tribe, the one that just went to tribal council and voted Rob out. I think that this was a bad move for Adam and Ben. They didn't know that Sophie or Sarah had advantages, so there was no fear of that when they were making their choice. And if this tribe has to go to tribal council this next episode, then Ben or Adam are absolutely going home. And if they had kept Rob, depending on how idols might have played out in that scenario, then they're 3 against 1, and they can pick Rob off at that point, even though I think they're going to merge soon. If they had, say, voted out Sarah, and then going into this episode, it was the 3 guys and Sophie, then they could pick Sophie off this episode, depending on whether she plays her idol right or not, and then pick Rob off if they did happen to get down to 3 people. But in this scenario, with the 2 girls and the 2 guys, I don't really think Sophie and Sarah are going to flip on each other. They've been voting the same way, even though they don't seem to be tightest with each other of their former tribe. And they can easily do a 2-2 vote, or Adam or Ben flip on each other, and they're trying to do the 3-1 scenario where Ben's pitching for Adam and Adam's pitching for Ben to go, which wouldn't be that shocking. I felt like they were pretty close going into this game, but they've definitely lost a lot of trust with each other. So I can see that happening, and they just want to roll the dice, and the guys want to see how they do in that scenario. But if the boys do stick together, it's still a 2-2, and the girls can easily use either of those advantages. You know, I know that they want to hang on to them, but just to get to the merge, they can easily do the steal a vote and make it 3-1 and vote either guy out, or they can play the immunity idol correctly. So I just don't think this was a really good move. It was a long-term move. A lot of people want to be able to say they were the one that voted Boston Rob out. So I think they're already thinking about their resumes as far as that goes, even though it's not even merged yet. But it's actually not like short-sighted enough, because both of them put themselves at an incredible risk going into this next episode. So yeah, this was my favorite episode so far this season. I love seeing all the mixed up dynamics. I thought they would have mixed tribes up sooner, but I'm also really excited for the next episode, a double vote. I just like episodes with a lot of social action and interaction. And next episode, I actually think there's a good chance someone will come back from Edge of Extinction. So we have 6 players on Edge, and then we have 14 players left in the game. Someone thought that they saw on the next time preview that we saw there being 4 mats for the next challenge, meaning there'd be an Edge of Extinction tribe. And I'm not sure exactly how that would play out, if they would go to the middle losing tribe or the losing tribe once someone got back in the game. I'm not sure, but I definitely know in the next 2 episodes, someone from Edge of Extinction will be coming back, and I hope that that's what they leave it at, and that the Edge of Extinction people are not on the jury like they were in season 38. That's part of why Chris won. He spent more time with those people than he did on the island, but in that way he built relationships with them. For this, I just wish Edge of Extinction would be kind of a half-season thing. They'd let someone back in the game, and then they'd kind of end it. We'll have to see how it goes. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you next week. Please subscribe below if you haven't already. Comment, let me know what you think about this episode, and peace out.